Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We're looking into this really fascinating personal project. It's by a music fan called Greensterox, and his mission, well, it's pretty ambitious.
It really is.
He wants to crown the, quote, best album of all time from his own huge collection. And the way he's doing it is maybe the most interesting part.
Yeah, absolutely. He's set up this thing he calls the World Cup of Music. Basically, he takes all his albums, shuffles them, puts them into random groups of 4.
Right, like a football World Cup bracket.
Exactly like that. Then he really commits, listens to each group over and over again.
Wow.
Yeah, then ranks them. Only the top 2 from each group move on. It's this, really deep personal dive into what actually clicks with him right now.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we're focusing on one specific round, right? His episode 26.
That's the one. Aptly titled, Alanis Gets on the Couch.
Okay, interesting title. And the contenders in this group were pretty heavy hitters. We had Whitesnake's 1987, Alanis Morissette's supposed former Infatuation, Junkie, Jimi Hendrix's Experience, Hendrix, and Crowded House, Together Alone.
Quite a mix there.
Definitely. Now, Greensterox himself, and probably a lot of listeners, might have looked at that group and thought, okay, Whitesnake's 1987, that's got to walk it right.
You think so? It's often called, one of the best metal albums ever.
Exactly. But he said it ended up being a tough decision. He even wondered if maybe he just listened to it too much over the years, like listened to it to death.
And this is where it gets really interesting, where the project throws up these surprises.
Yeah.
Because the album that took first place, it wasn't Whitesnake.
Go on.
It was Alanis Morissette's supposed former Infatuation, Junkie.
Wow. Okay, so why? What was his thinking?
Well, he said it just gets better and better the more he listens. He described it as delightfully dark, psychoanalytical, and very introspective. And really importantly, he stressed how different it sounds from Jagged Little Pill.
Right, not the big radio hits album.
Not at all. He talked about how the songs are well constructed, but also have this, inventively, deliberately, loosely structured feel. He pointed out the musical excellence, especially on tracks like One and Unsent. He called Unsent the only sort of hopeful moment on there.
That description, psychoanalytical, introspective, it makes sense that an album like that would reward deep, repeated listening, doesn't it?
It really does. Some albums just keep revealing things. Yep. They have layers you don't catch first time around, unlike maybe, something that's all about immediate impact.
So maybe the albums that aren't quite so in your face actually do better in this kind of intense listening project, more potential for discovery over time.
I think that's exactly it. It suggests some art really benefits from that kind of focused attention. And coming in second, also ahead of Whitesnake,
yes,
was Crowded Houses Together Alone. Again, maybe a bit of a surprise placing so high in this group.
Right. People often call that their best album, though, their finest work.
Definitely. In tracks like Private Universe, Distant Sun, Nails in My Feet, those clearly hit the mark for him this time around, enough to push it past Whitesnake.
It really makes you think, how many albums in our own collections might surprise us if we listened like that?
Totally.
Because like you said, Crowded House beat Whitesnake's 1987, which ended up third.
Yep, third place, despite having massive hits like Still of the Night and Is This Love?
Power Ballad Central. And then in fourth,
Jimi Hendrix, Experience Hendrix. Greensterox did say he feels like he's getting into him at last, really hearing the influence.
Okay, so some appreciation there.
Yeah, but he also called it a very strong group, and I guess in the end, Hendrix landed last in this specific ranking.
So what does that tell us? Especially Whitesnake finishing third when it's such a landmark album for many.
I think it really shows how subjective best is, especially when you use this kind of method. An album you feel you've listened to death, like he said about Whitesnake. Maybe it loses some of that spark, that element of surprise, when you put it head-to-head like this against something still unfolding for you.
Right. It's not just about the album's historical status, but its power to reveal something new right now.
Exactly. It's less about some objective greatness and more about its capacity for fresh discovery in this focused context. It kind of challenges that whole idea of a fixed best album ever, doesn't it? It really highlights how your personal history with the music and just the way you're listening can completely shift things.
So yeah, Group 26 really shook things up. Alanis Morissette's deep introspective work, taking the crown over these huge rock and metal albums, definitely challenges assumptions.
It absolutely does. And this whole album quest idea, it just underlines how our relationship with music isn't static, It changes. Going back to albums you think you know really well, but listening with this kind of focus. You can find totally new things, change your whole perspective on a piece of art you thought you had figured out. It's all about that personal discovery right there in your own collection.
It really is.